The date is January 3rd, 1959. The subject under consideration is psychic awareness. The witnesses are
Laura Dinkin, Gina Festus,
Charles Duncan,
Mary Pennington,
Stella Fox.
the conductor is George Nickerson, and Zoe Nickerson is doing the trance work. Zoe, you are studying the subject psychic awareness. You are to give a dissertation on the subject, which will include birthright, development, achievement, significance, history, physical, mental, spiritual, and any other pertinent information necessary. Is that clear? When you have gathered the information and have prepared it so that it can be used verbatim in Is Open Forum magazine, please present it.
The list of categories given are not necessary to be followed as they were for the benefit of those needing or desiring more information on these subjects. We will disregard them. Psychic awareness is in itself the key to acquiring or developing the ability to extend one's sensitivity of consciousness, and is particularly important to those who want to become more aware in order to use it to their own and to others' advantage. When one becomes aware of the psyche and its potential, one is on the first stepping stone too long. Man has been taught of himself and of his functions purely from physical definitions. Even a slight understanding of man's power beyond the physical body will itself promote an awakening or a realization of the mental body of man, through which the greater part of the psyche functions. To the average man, thinking is confined inside the dimensions of the skull, as are also his other sense organs, confined to the area limitations of the physical organs through which the senses function. By using the power of the mind to extend itself or other senses beyond the physical margin, setting the thought or the sight or the hearing mentally beyond the range that is limited by the physical, man can increase the area of perception, the area of understanding, and find a greater operating field for all of his bodies and their powers, which conform to the totality of man, nature, and the universe. We will try to make this more clear through a common present day analogy. A radio receiving tower contains all the fine instruments and parts of perception or reception at its peak or its head, with wires or nerves leading to all the other parts of its body, which can span countries or continents. If the radio receiver limited its ability by its own parts contained within the physical dimension or construction of the head part of the tower, its wires or nerves extending to its other part would only transmit the hummings, whirrings, or buzzings of its working parts, the clickings of its calculators, and perhaps more complicated sound vibrations transmitted by a man working within that head. It would not be aware of its ability to reach beyond its physical structure. As it is, a radio tower has no thought of its own to limit all the vibrations coming to it. Therefore, it can pick up every vibration on the scale, on the audio scale that hits the antenna, and is only limited by what man himself has put within that head to filter out the undesirable and collect only the intelligible or that pertinent to the function of that tower. Man's own perceptive abilities can be closely related in a pictorial sense to that of a radio tower, both transmitting or receiving, but in this particular instance, we are interested in the receiving. Grasping the possibilities open to mental reception in this sense is the first step to developing one's own psychic potentials, throwing away all previous conceptions of man's physical limitation, making oneself extend the operating area of thought by thinking not only inside one's head, but outside as well. One can set up a program of practice and experimentation in order to train the senses to function in this manner. At this point, we will stop for questions.
All right, thank you. In the earlier part of the information given, a reference was made to understanding the potential of the psyche. Would you at this point define psyche for us?
There are two definitions. The popular one being man's thought potential calculated in ratio to the brain area and brain development. The other definition is man's total mental body.
Please clarify the last phrase, man's total mental body.
The unlimited creative mind ability of man in the realm of his physical, spiritual, and mental bodies, the totality, the soul.
Is that all?
That's
Thank you. Please refresh yourself a moment while we prepare some questions. And now may we go on to the next question. May we present the next question?
Mhm.
A question has been asked thusly: is psychic awareness merely an extension of the well-known physical senses?
Generally, in answering that question, we would say yes. But it is not only an extension, it is also a refinement of the physical senses. It is difficult to clarify without confusing in the same issue, but we will point out at this time that thought is not physical in the popular sense of the word. Thought is energy. Energy is motion. Motion creates vibration. Vibration creates sound or matter. But we are getting into a study of the infinite when we try to clarify whether psychic awareness is an extension of the physical senses. Without the physical sense of hearing, we would not perceive sound, yet the psyche can perceive sound that is not perceptible to the sense of hearing. When we say it is an extension with an addition of a refinement of the physical senses, we are getting closer to the right definition. The important thing here, of course, is to get man to realize the possibility of extending the senses in order to start him on his way to fuller psychic development. That is all.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is this. Where does one draw the line between physical and psychic phenomena? Or rather, let me repeat the question. Where does one draw the line between physical and psychic awareness? That is the correct question. Where does one draw the line between physical and psychic awareness?
Here is a point not often heeded. With each individual, the line would be different or would vary. Our physical awareness rewards us with the limitation of our own sensual organs. Whatever our particular individual limitation would be, either on the low or the high scale, there we would draw our physical perception line, and ranges beyond or below that coming to this individual would be related to that beyond the physical senses or the psyche, even though the very next person range would go beyond that, so that his physical perception line would include the psychic perception line of the other individual. Is that clear?
I believe that will be clear upon study. However, the expression used in reference to low or high scale is not clear. Could this be clarified for us?
The ability to perceive a slow or rapid pulsation or vibration, as in sound, color, light, heat, anything and everything being measured in terms of vibration. Is that clear?
Yes, that is clear. Is that all?
Mhm.
Thank you. May we go on to the next question?
Mhm.
The next question is this. What is the relation between psychic awareness and soul development?
Repeat.
What is the relation between psychic awareness and soul development?
We were searching for the questioner's definition of soul development. The answer to this is a simple one. The greater powers in man that can be used for good, the greater the soul development, progressively good. And the same applies to the negative scale. The importance being that an understanding of man's powers, however feeble, will, in the majority of soul conscious men, broaden or increase their spiritual development. That is all.
Thank you. Shall we go on to the next question?
Just a minute. It's important to discuss this phenomena or this ability, psychic awareness, in order to increase the understanding which opens the doors to usefulness and to decrease the amount of fabricated explanations, what is so easily unexplained, rather than follow through into endless mazes of difficult explanations that set psychic awareness apart from a natural part of man. That is
Thank you. May I go on to the next question? Next question is this: what purpose is served by psychic awareness in this physical incarnation?
repeat.
What purpose is served by psychic awareness in this physical incarnation?
Its purposes are as manifold as the purposes of any other function or operation of man in his physical body, but the overall importance is that the development of the soul or the soul mind is dependent upon the levels of consciousness of man, and any effort or understanding that increases or extends the operation of these powers within or without the physical body curves man's progress continually upward and onward. That is so.
Thank you. How common is this awareness?
More common than is known, but more limited than is necessary. That is so.
Early in the information given this evening, a reference was made to thinking outside one's head. How does one do this?
Many simple exercises come to mind, and all together as usual. Just a minute.
Please repeat.
Look around corners and describe sights through walls into the next day or future times, even into the past, particularly forgotten areas, and record and check consistently. There is one note of caution. Do not pretend. Learn the difference between pretending and true effort. That is all.
Thank you. May I go on to the next question? Next question is this: what is meant by psychic antennae or antenna?
The word antenna means extension. That is all.
Thank you. We have only a few more questions. May we go on to the next one? Please define as briefly as possible for the edification of some of newer readers, the difference between the subconscious, conscious, and superconscious minds, each in turn. Is the question clear?
Repeat.
Please briefly define the difference between the subconscious, conscious, and superconscious minds.
We will begin with the conscious mind, that part of the thinking process that is called upon repeatedly in everyday living, that part which takes direction and follows through, both through patterns of habit and training, and somewhat through that which is filtered through the superconscious, which is man's inherent consciousness that contains the Atma, the elements of his spiritual being and birthright, which automatically approves or censors the thought of the conscious mind, which is also a part of the creative mind, being more closely associated with man's mental and spiritual bodies. The subconscious is the reservoir of all man's thought knowledge, but does not follow through on direction automatically. It can be trained to do so, but it has no censoring or approving mechanism. It relies upon the lower senses to propel it into action. It relies upon training, recalling, and it relies almost entirely upon what is fed into it in order to determine its substance or essence or value to the conscious mind. Is that clear?
Yes, that is clear. Is that all? Thank you. May we go on to the next question?
Mm.
The next question is this. Is creativity in the arts and sciences a product of psychic awareness?
Without any question.
Without any question. Is any further clarification necessary?
Without awareness, there could be no creativity. That is so.
In closing this study, we ask if any concrete or definite, specific outline can be given for developing this psychic awareness in individuals. In other words, a constant factor. Is there a constant factor which would pertain to the majority of individuals that could be utilized in developing this psychic awareness?
With each individual, it is different. It is basically a matter of using the full thought power. Even that of the conscious mind is not used fully. but to make it a practice to extend the power of thought whenever possible, if it is the individual's desire to do so. This is not necessary in man's development, as automatically in some time this will come forth as his own desire is created. But for those interested in starting now, in order to benefit now, it is merely a practice of doing. Problems that seem unable to be solved are so because of the limitations of the mental power. Be determined to solve them, not by straining the effort, but relaxing, and in an effort of knowing the mind can extend itself to solve the problem easily, it will be done. Do or practice is the constant. That is all.
We have no more questions concerning this specific subject. We certainly appreciate the information that has been given, and we all thank you. We would like to ask this, however, which is simply, can you name individuals within our circle of friends and acquaintances in the para-study organization or otherwise who have the ability to use or call upon the same faculties that you use, or have the potential which could be developed so that they would be able to perform this kind of work. Possibly the organization could start finding and or developing people in an effort to lighten your workload, or simply in an effort to show others that they too can do these things. Is my question clear?
It would be a long term looking around.
Would it be worthwhile to do this as a separate study in itself at a future time?
Mm-hmm.
Should this be done privately or under the auspices of the organization?
Neither.
Under what circumstances then should it be done?
It can be done for those who are interested in tapping their own potential. That's all.
Does that mean that it would have to be done as an individual study for each entity? All right. Before you return to the conscious state, I ask now that you take a minute or two to study the subject matter available.
Many reasons for this of value. That being the small amount of comfortable understanding on this subject, which increases the undesirability of trespassing without consent. By comfortable, we mean that there is not a one among us without some degree of fear, which must not be magnified, but must be obliterated by a comfortable understanding of the processes of the psyche. For this reason, it is important for man to know more about it in order to throw off the shackles of fear. Another in the mental realm is that of the inferiority element, which too is a block at the present, but which, through a comfortable understanding of these processes, can completely be lifted, be obliterated, and lift the same individual to greater heights than he has ever known, dressed in humility rather than inferiority. Is that clear?
Yes, that is very clear.
That is so.
Thank you. All right, now, prior to returning to the conscious state, I ask now that you give the specific subject that will be studied at the next session of this type. Such information as can be and will be used in the publication is.
It will be that of the seals.
Please clarify.
The seventh seal in Revelation.
All right, thank you.